Estamos aquí en la campaña de Somos Florida. Mi nombre es María Rodríguez de la Coalición de Inmigrantes de la Florida, para decir que con mucho coraje estamos respondiendo a los proyectos de ley antiinmigrantes que van a ser un desastre para nuestro estado. Nuestros representantes del sur de la Florida están optando por velar por sus intereses y su futuro político en vez de velar por los residentes de sus propios distritos.
One of our lawmakers said that we had to have he was introducing one of these anti-immigrant bills, and he said that we had to do this because Congress has not acted. But this is not the way that we need to do immigration reform. The way that our lawmakers can really help is to work with our congressional representatives to make bills that are sensible, that will help this country to prosper in the next century, not these kinds of destructive anti-immigrant bills that also could potentially are unconstitutional. One of the things that the Senate bill that we're talking about today would do is turn police officers throughout the state into immigration agents, which actually diverts public local resources, local tax dollars to pay for federal immigration enforcement. And it also hurts people, for example, and I think we have folks here who represent victims of domestic violence. While we're paying for federal enforcement, we have people with domestic violence crimes who will not get the services or the investigations that they need. It also fails to recognize that Florida's immigrants contribute more than $2 billion to the state taxes each year, and we would lose, if you're just talking about undocumented folks here, the state would lose $43.9 billion, that's $44 billion in economic activity, and more than 260,000 jobs. There are just so many problems with this bill, and this is only one of...
The bill that's being considered this morning, Senate Bill 7066, is a complicated 11-page bill, but let me just say that probably the guts of the bill are three different things. Number one, it requires every employer in the state of Florida to participate in a federal database, check all their employees and their applicants for employment in what Susanna referred to as the federal E-Verify program. Secondly, it encourages, it comes about as close to compelling as possible, but it encourages every county sheriff to participate in an agreement with the federal law enforcement agencies to engage in 287G agreements. This would turn county sheriffs into law enforcement agencies enforcing federal immigration laws. Thirdly, it codifies and requires participation in the Secure Communities program, in which fingerprints of everybody who is picked up in Florida would be then circulated around the country and through federal agencies. If it had something to do with immigration, and it had something to do with genuine public policy, I can't for the life of me understand why a conservative legislature would have such tremendous faith in an error-prone federal database that was documented last year to have deprived 80,000 legal citizens or residents of the state of the United States of a job. Lawful people in this country, based on a failed, error-prone database, 80,000 people were denied a job. I can't for the life of me understand why this legislature would turn its back on the advice of law enforcement agencies and law enforcement professionals like the International Association of Chiefs of Police and current and former chiefs in our own community here in Miami, who have told members of the legislature and policymakers that this kind of arrangement in which local law enforcement agencies are enforcers of federal immigration laws would drive a disastrous wedge between immigrant communities and law enforcement. Law enforcement agencies that depend on the cooperation of immigrant communities and cooperation of everybody to keep our communities safe. This would be a disaster that law enforcement officials have told the legislature. And I can't for the life of me understand why this legislature would turn its back on the report issued just 2 months ago by the Florida Chamber of Commerce that warned against adopting Arizona-style draconian legislation in a state that is dependent upon tourism and agriculture.
We in the Haitian American community are gravely concerned about the anti-immigrant bills that are being proposed in our Florida legislature. We are concerned about the impact, the negative impact on all immigrant communities. But we are severely concerned about the impact on the Haitian American community. Because we know that over the years, Haitians have been targeted for discriminatory treatment over and over again. They've been profiled, labeled. I recently came back from Haiti where 27 immigrants, permanent residents were deported. In less than a week, one of them died because Haiti is really reeling under the worst crisis ever. We do know that Haitians will be specifically targeted and their lives will be in danger. This country is the most powerful in the world. Our communities thrive from the work of immigrants. Targeting them is nothing less than a witch hunt of politicians posturing for political gains.
When victims and witnesses of crime fear coming forward, and has been mentioned, none more than victims of domestic violence would be disproportionately impacted by these.
This is a big blow if this passes to victims of domestic violence. As it is right now, a lot of women, a lot of victims don't call the police for fear of being arrested because in a lot of instances they are the one going to jail, not the perpetrator. Which women are going to call the police now if this passes? They're going to be terrified knowing, having the threat hanging over their heads, that they'll go to jail and be deported without even knowing their rights.
Keep your hand on the plow.